Welcome students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. And for this series of videos, we're working on the Chapter 15 word problems, the odd numbered problems that were assigned in the study guide. And as in the last video, I had said that I'm not reproducing the tables. So I'm just going to quote the factors. Go ahead and look up the table either in the textbook or if you have to in the Business Math Handbook if it's not found on the table in the textbook. But I'm just going to quote the factors as we move along here, and realize that I'm looking them up in the table myself as I'm working through the problems. Okay, because as I said, I'm working these ad hoc, meaning I'm doing them just as if I was a student, and so you're seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly when I'm doing these videos. Okay. And I'm also trying to explain in my head, what I'm doing and verbalizing it so that you could see the benefit of that. Okay, so let's move on. All right, get my pen. All right, it says here, Freddie Mac reports that the average rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is 3.92% as of January 2012. This is down 4.76 from 4.76 in January 2011 and 5.03 in January 2010. If you have a $225,000 5% 30-year mortgage, how much interest will you save if you refinance your loan at 3.5% for 15 years? So the reality is that in this problem, and again, it's a word problem. So word problems, you have information that's directly related to solving the problem, okay, which would be this 225, the 5% and 30, and this 3.5 and 15. You have information that has nothing to do with the problem. Well, to be honest with you, that's everything above that line. Those first, couple of sentences there have nothing to do with this problem, okay? Other than to set it up in context that you're going to refinance. And then of course you have information that has to be manipulated. Well, that's what we're doing, is we're taking this direct information and we have to, manipulate it, massage it, do something with it in order to get the information we need. I mean, here we have to do this problem twice. We have to take the 225,000 as principal, but we have two different sets of criteria. One is at 5% for 30 years, and another one is at 3.5% for 15 years. And we want to be able to see, how much interest we will save, if we refinance. So that's what I mean by manipulate. Direct information is this 5% and 30 and 3.5 and 15, but the manipulation is that when we figure out what these amounts are, we have to take those and subtract in order to find the difference as what we're looking for as the answer. Okay, but again, that's a word problem, and we should all be used to this kind of thing by now. Okay, so let's see here. We'll work out the 5% at 30 years. So again, the principal here is 225,000. Okay, and when we're looking up on the amortization table, that is in thousands, per thousands of dollars, per $1,000. So basically, we can just cross out or get rid of the 200, the remaining 1,000 zeros here, right? And we end up with 225 is what we're going to use when we multiply by the factor. So we have 225, and then when we look it up on the table, we're going to go and look under the 5% column, and then we're going to go down to the 30-year row and cross-reference that and get the factor of times 5.37, and this is going to give us our monthly payment, which is $1,208.25. Okay, now that's a monthly payment. That's per month. Okay, and it's for 30 years. Okay, so 30 years times 12 months in a year means that we're going to make 360 payments. Okay, we're doing this because we need to know the total amount for each criteria so that we can subtract one from the other. So we multiply the $1,208 by 360 periods, and we end up paying a total amount of $434,970. Now, remember, it's asking us how much interest we will save. You know, the amount of interest is the total of this payment, the total amount that we paid, minus the $225,000 in principal. That'll give us our interest. But we don't need to go through that step in that process for the simple reason that we're going to do the same exact thing and for the second set of criteria, because our principal is the same thing, $225,000. So the total amount of the loan over here less the total amount of the loan over here would be the difference in the interest because the principal remained the same. Okay, so for the 3.5% at 15 years, we have 225, and when we look up the factor for 3.5% in 15 years, that factor is 7.15, which means our monthly payment is $1,608.75. Okay, now we have 15 years, and we're going to multiply that by 12 months in a year. That means we have 180 months. Okay, 180 payments. So we multiply the 1,608 times the 180, and we end up with 289,575. Okay. All right, so now we know the amount here as our total payments for the 30 years and the amount here for our total payments for the 15 years. And basically all it is the difference between the two, less the 289,575. And we end up with a difference of $145,395 in interest. Okay, so that's our answer, $145,395. Okay, problem 15-11. Joe Levi bought a home in Arlington, Texas for $140,000. He put 20% down and obtained a mortgage for 30 years at 5.5%. What is Joe's monthly payment, and what is the total interest cost of the loan? Okay, you know, notice that the process is going to be the same thing as we did in the last problem, and the same as in the drill problems. Okay, the only thing that's different here is that we're not being, told how much our down payment is. We're being told how much the percentage is, but we're not given a specific number. So that's kind of, if you've heard me in several of the last videos, I keep on saying it's the same process. It's the same process. And if you understand the concepts in the process, you can work through the problem. But if you're going to just jump into the textbook and try to mimic the numbers, you're going to get it wrong for the simple reason it's not giving you the down payment. All right, you're going to have to calculate it yourself. So that's one of those idiosyncrasies that you have to work out on the side as you work the process. But the process is basically the same thing. I'm going to start out here at 140,000. And I have to multiply it by 20% in order to get my down payment, 20%. And that means my down payment is $28,000. Okay, so now that I know what my down payment is, okay, now I could take my 140,000 and subtract my 28,000 as my down payment to find out my loan amount, which is 112,000. Okay, and of course, out of the 112,000, Well, I can divide that by 1,000, or just drop off the thousands here and start out with the 112. And then I have to find the factor on the table. So I'm looking at the table, on the amortization table, and I'm looking for 30 years at 5.5%, and I end up with the factor of 5.68, which makes my monthly payment $636.16. Okay, but of course that's monthly, and we're talking about years here, so I have to convert the 30 years and multiply it by 12 months and get 360 payments. Okay, so the question had asked, what is our monthly payment? And our answer is $636.16. But now it's asking, what is our interest cost on the loan? So I have to find out how much I'm going to pay over the entire amount of the loan, and then subtract out how much we borrowed, which was the $112,000. So that's why I'm figuring out how many months, because if this is months and I pay this for 360 months, I end up with $229,017.60, and then I subtract out the $112,000 that I borrowed, and that gives me an amount of interest of $117,017.60. Okay, so that is the amount of the interest. Okay. Again, same process as we did in the previous problems, as we did in the drill problems, but the only thing that was really different was right here, in that we needed to calculate a down payment. But once we had that down payment, all the steps were exactly what we did before. All right. So with that, I'm going to pause here and pick up in the next video for the next problem.